Welcome to the Defense and Aerospace Report. I'm Vago Muradian at the Naval Undersea Museum in Keyport, Washington, and we have with us the man who is in charge of all the naval installations in this neck of the woods, Captain Schrader, who is the commander of Naval Base Kitsap. Sir, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me today, Vago. It's great to be here.
You know, when folks think about military areas in the country, they have a tendency of not thinking about how military the Pacific Northwest is. You know, folks will think of Texas or Florida or Virginia, you know, Colorado and even California, but there's an enormous concentration up here, especially of naval assets. Walk us through your responsibilities. You guys were created in 2004 to sort of oversee all of the sprawling naval installations up here. What falls under your charge and what's your mission?
So Naval Base Kitsap is really made up of four main bases: Keyport, Bremerton, Bangor, and Manchester. Manchester is the fuel depot. So in 2004, they combined us all. They used to have individual commanding officers put us together and essentially made me the mayor of those four bases. So I keep the lights on, the water flowing, and the sewage pumping, and I do a bunch of things supporting the mission up here in the Pacific Northwest.
Obviously, all essential services, but that's kind of a wide-ranging series of missions. Talk to us about the missions and some of the assets that are up here.
Well, we have some very important missions in the Department of Defense. We'll start off with the Strategic Deterrent Mission in Bangor. We have 8 home-ported Trident SSBN submarines, and that is #1 mission up and down anything we do in the Department of Defense. You go down to Bremerton, we have 2 home-ported aircraft carriers. We all know how important those are too. And in between, we have 2 SSGNs, which are the guided missile submarines, converted Trident missile submarines. Ohio and Michigan are also stationed here. Incredible amount of firepower, conventional. And then finally the 3 Seawolf class submarines, Seawolf Connecticut and our research and development submarine, USS Jimmy Carter. They're all fantastic. And when you look at it, the number of submarines, the number of crews, the number of people, we have probably one of the most important missions just here in this Naval Base Kitsap area. So,
and how important is it for the local community? I mean, there's a big retiree population over here. How important are these bases to support the veterans community?
Well, it's very important. We estimate somewhere in the area of about 30,000 retirees and their families that we support. We have over 25,000 people that work here every day, and it's one of my biggest challenges actually is getting them in and out, you know, in the morning, and my email fills up whenever the lines are long, but we do that safely and securely, which is very important. But as far as supporting the community, we bring about a $2 billion payroll into this area, so we're one of the big economic
You're a key economic engine for the area.
Yeah.
Speaking of finances, obviously we've been operating under Budget Control Act, continuing resolutions. As the guy who's on the pointy end of the spear running these massive installations that are doing such important missions, what kind of impact has there been on you because of the Budget Control Act?
Yeah, that's a great question because all the budget things that are put forward by Congress and of course, time of the president, we always feel that. But first and foremost, the mission, and our mission never suffers. We make sure that we put submarines and ships to sea. Period. That's what we do. After that, we do as best we can with what we have left over to make sure this. We have our shipyard's 125 years old. Most of our bases are in the 40 to 70 years old range. Bangor, and we have a strategic deterrent mission that's going to be out to 2080. So we have to make sure the piers, the roads, the houses all support that. Is there ever enough money? There's never enough money. However, we do the best with what we can, and we work with our tenants and our partners to make sure that we prioritize correctly to get what we need to, so that we can, first and foremost, always support the mission.
From a preventative maintenance standpoint, obviously, other bases around the country have talked about gapping maintenance sometimes and choosing, sort of deal with the most immediate wolf as opposed to one that's further down the road. What are some innovative things you guys are doing to make sure that you get the most for the amount of money that you're spending to make sure that these critical facilities are up and running all the time?
So we're continually working with our contractors to drive efficiency. Again, I think what it really comes down to is working with the tenants to have the right priorities in place. When you have to change oil in your car every 5,000 miles, but you're only funded to change it out every 7, you got to be careful with what you do on that. So, in terms of our buildings, our roads, our infrastructure, we're continually trying to prioritize and make sure we have long-term plans as well as short-term plans. Right now I have 2 broken sewer lines, and the answer is I got to go fix those, and they weren't planned for. Unfortunately, some of these are, you fix them when they break. Right. But you'd like to be as preventative as you can. I grew up in a submarine force where preventive maintenance is key. It's about 70% of what we do. And the 30% is, when you fix it. And it's kind of flip-flopped, I think, in our area where, we do as much preventative as we can and we're funded for. But every now, I find us fixing more things as they come up. And that's just my 3 months of experience in this job is leading to that. But it's exciting and I have fun doing it. And But, as always, money's tight, and we have to do the best we can with what we're given.
It's a little bit different from strategic programs, isn't it, ultimately? And sewer lines don't really give you much warning before they go most of the time.
That's correct. I would say at strategic systems programs, dealing with rockets has a little bit different priority than, a water line or a sewer line, and as it should be.
But at the end of the day, there can still be crap everywhere, basically.
Not on my base. Never an option.
Let me go. I mean, one of the things that folks are already talking about is scrapping the Budget Control Act. Obviously, President-elect Trump has talked about that. There's a sense that there's going to be more money. If you've got a wish list, what are the things that are on your wish list, to-do list, that if you got more money, these are the 5 top things that you would do on this base that are priorities for you?
So I think first and foremost, I need to make sure the piers and the port operations facilities will last for at least another 8 decades. Because we have 8 SSBNs here, because we have 2 carriers, housing and barracks rooms, what we call unaccompanied housing, are always at a premium. And so to get more help in that area would be important. And I have to put a plug in for the Bremerton folks who complain every day that we don't have enough parking, which is right, we don't. We have about 6,500 parking spots for about 19,000 employees. So the DC folks will probably say, yeah, that's nothing, but that's what I have to live with every day. So working on not just parking spots, but working on a mass transit type of plan, because again, it comes down to, it's not that I need the parking spots for the 19,000 people. What I really need is to get those 19,000 people to and from work efficiently. That's really what the folks need. If they can drive them with a bus right up to their doorstep, if I can save them some time, that's what we're trying to do. So I think I hit 3 of them. There's plenty more, but I think those are the big ones offhand. As always, a lot of our buildings are getting old. And really, when you look at what Bangor was designed for, it wasn't designed for this number of submarines. So we are trying to expand wherever we can. There's no shortage up here in terms of desire and needs for space. So, and we have a lot of old buildings. So trying to keep the roofs dry, keep the tenants dry with fixing the roofs, keep the power on. The power infrastructure is incredible with nuclear powered warships stationed up here. Very critical to get that right. So the list is long, but I think I kind of hit the top things I would ask for.
Yeah, and the weather up here is so mild that really it doesn't really punish buildings very badly with rain and cold and those sorts of things. So
it's a little secret of ours. We tell everyone it rains here all the time, but when you walked outside today, you saw, every now and then we get a beautiful sunny day. It's that bright thing in the sky. It really hurts my eyes. So
That's right. With artificial lighting in the steel tube, it's just a lot easier on you, and you don't even have to worry about that ultraviolet stuff and get a sunburn. One of the things I wanted to ask you is sea level rise is a concern. Obviously, down in the Norfolk area, that's an issue. From your guys' standpoint up here, is that a challenge at all as you look at the long-range infrastructure plans? From a climate impact standpoint at all?
We have to look at that. We have very large tidal swings here, so the things that we need to look at are different than what the folks in Norfolk need to look at, but we have to look at that long term.
And let me ask you one final question, and that's in terms of base closures. I mean, folks are talking about that again. It's been proposed numerous times over the last years. Obviously, we took a pause on that because of concerns about how the last BRAC was done. But as a commander of an important installation, are you thinking in the back of your mind, like, what are some trade-offs, if this process does start again, how you guys would play in this to shape an outcome that is best for the Navy, the local community, and your folks ultimately?
I do have to think about that. However, provided there's always a strategic mission, provided there's a need for aircraft carriers and their capability and their mission, then there will always be a need for Naval Base Kitsap. So I do think I have one of the most important and unique missions in the Department of Defense portfolio. But if you asked if a BRAC type event came up, then I would have to think about it. It's not really hard to show how important we are up here. We do some pretty incredible things between the torpedo manufacturing that Keyport does, both in heavyweight and lightweight torpedo, and the thousands of engineers they have working for them, to the shipyard and all the dry dock capability, the ability to dry dock the Nimitz-class carriers, and we are making preparations for the Ford down the road, and the Ford and its class, and up in Bangor with the Trident submarines and the follow-on, the Columbia class. We're going to be here for decades. So provided that there's a mission, and that's way above me, that's the president saying this is what we're going to do, provided that the president continues to say that these are important missions, we're going to be here.
Sir, thanks very, very much, and fair winds and following seas on the assignment.
Well, thank you very much.